One thing I've been thinking about some lately is this idea of how, how pleasure, how your baseline for pleasure affects your life, essentially. So, um, I think it's true that as humans we're very adaptable. So if we're in a high stimulation environment, we tend to adapt to it, and we tend to perhaps want it on a more continual basis. So like that's, with our phones, we're used to our phone entertaining us, and so for many of us, we decide frequently to be on our phone a lot because it's convenient, and it's provides us with some level of pleasure, right? And um, so if we were to really assess things in an honest way, I think we have to say that probably the number one hobby in America is, you know, social media, scrolling social media on your phone or something along those lines, right? A lot of us spend a lot of time doing something on our phone. So what's interesting though is, when everything's exciting, nothing's exciting, is, kind of that idea. So it's like this idea of well, some people maybe go on dopamine fast, maybe it became kind of trendy or whatever, but there's certain activities that release endorphins, you know, dopamine, etc., and that are very pleasurable. But then the thing with dopamine, I guess, is that you kind of find apparently it kind of self-regulates to where after you have a dopamine high, then you also kind of have to have a corresponding low or evening out period that kind of gets you back to your average, which maybe that doesn't quite go with my theory of adapting to different levels of things, but I guess it does. So basically it's if kind of like doing like coffee, right? If you have coffee all the time, eventually it doesn't really maybe make you feel particularly great, but maybe it keeps you from feeling not great, right? It's there to just maintain that baseline now. So I'm thoughtful about, especially anything that has sort of a negative behavioral connotation to it, of let's say I eat a carby lunch, and then that means that I'm going to now, so I indulge, I'm I want a little treat, right? I'll have something kind of carby, kind of not that I have not that I'm against carbs, but kind of have a treat, and then treat myself, right? And then go to, oh well, now I need some caffeine this afternoon because I'm gonna have the sugar slump, and so I need the caffeine to keep myself feeling energetic so I can get my work done. And then I have caffeine, then maybe if I overdo the caffeine, I treat myself, right? And then I overdo the caffeine, and then either I have so much caffeine it's actually hard to really work at full productivity, or I have maybe it hinders me from sleeping quite as well at night, or it dehydrates me, or whatever. It's just this potential cascade of suboptimal effects and states of being that can start with a little indulgence, right? And so it's just interesting to think. It's let's say for instance, if I wanted to read more or even listen to audiobooks, but I didn't because it was boring compared to, let's say, consuming videos on YouTube, which are more short form and so on, then if I would reduce my video consumption, thereby kind of lowering my threshold for what's entertaining to me, if you will, and then could I get into a state where listening to books or reading books was interesting and fun enough to do now, because I've removed sort of that higher level of stimulation, and now because my threshold has kind of changed, my baseline is now kind of different. Now a book seems interesting again. So not sure how all that I don't know that I have any really pat solutions, but it's just something I'm kind of playing with a little bit. Last night I made myself just spend some time, not on my phone in the evening when I had free time. And some of you be like, well, duh, of course you shouldn't be on your phone the whole time. But I mean, but anyway, so I just, it was like, I have to, for half an hour here, I just have to not be on my phone. Just sit there, basically. And it was good. It's kind of therapeutic. And, hung out some with my kids, sat there, thought, and yeah, it was kind of peaceful. And anyway, so I'm just thoughtful about, kind of regulating the dopamine, endorphins, kind of regulating the pleasures of life to serve me, if you will, not necessarily in a selfish way, but like for productivity and overall health, compared to just kind of letting myself kind of default into whatever seems to be the most fun thing at the moment.